I get it, you're staring at a wall of specs and wondering if you'll end up splurging on a gadget that just sits there gathering dust. A projector promises a cinema-like experience, but the last thing you want is a massive, dim image that looks great only in a dark room you never use. You're also juggling the question of whether the built-in audio can replace a separate sound system, and if the unit will actually fit into the space you have. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The LG CineBeam PU615U tries to answer all those doubts by packing a 4K UHD laser engine into an ultra-short-throw box that sits just a few inches from the wall. In plain English, you can throw a 100-inch picture from a device that looks more like a sleek bookshelf speaker than a traditional projector. That design alone changes the calculus for people living in apartments or rooms where you can't dedicate a whole corner to a long throw distance. The promise is simple: huge, sharp images without the hassle of ceiling mounts or long cables. First off, let's talk about the picture. The laser light source delivers true 4K resolution with a color gamut that hits roughly 154% of DCI-P3, so reds and blues feel vivid without oversaturation. In a dimly lit living room, the image pops, and the 450:0:1 contrast ratio gives enough depth for most movies to feel cinematic. Because it's laser-based, you also avoid the rainbow effect you sometimes see with DLP chips, and the lamp life stretches well beyond the 20,000 mark you get with traditional bulbs. If you've ever bought a projector only to replace the lamp after a year or two, this is a real peace-of-mind factor. Now, the built-in speakers. LG equipped the CineBeam S with Dolby Atmos-enabled drivers, which is a bold claim for a projector of this size. In practice, the audio is louder than you'd expect from a compact box, and the Atmos processing adds a slight sense of height that can make an action scene feel more immersive. It's not going to replace a dedicated home theater receiver and bookshelf speakers for audiophiles, but for a casual movie night or a gaming session where you don't want a tangled web of wires, it's surprisingly competent. I tried it with a recent sci-fi film, and while the dialogue was clear, the low-end rumble stayed modest enough to feel present but not enough to shake the couch. Setup is where the CineBeam S really shines. Because it's an ultra-short-throw model, you place it just inches from the wall or a dedicated screen, and the auto-screen adjustment does the rest. The projector detects the distance and angle, then fine-tunes the keystone and focus automatically. That means you don't have to spend an afternoon crawling around the room with a level. However, you do need a relatively flat surface. A textured wall or a cheap pull-down screen can introduce hotspots or slight blur at the edges. In my own testing, a smooth white screen gave the cleanest picture, but a plain painted wall still produced a respectable image, albeit with a tiny loss in uniformity. One hidden trade-off is brightness. The CineBeam S pushes around 500 lumens, which is ample for dim environments but can struggle in rooms with a lot of ambient light. If you're planning to watch movies after sunset with the curtains drawn, you'll be fine. If you want to use it as a daytime TV replacement in a bright living room, you might find the whites look a touch washed out. That's a common compromise for ultra-short-throw units that prioritize compactness over raw lumen output. Some reviewers have suggested adding blackout curtains or a dedicated screen to mitigate this, and that's a realistic fix if you're committed to the setup. Another practical point is the smart platform. LG's WebOS runs on the projector, giving you access to Netflix, Disney+, Prime Video, and a handful of other streaming apps without needing an external box. The interface is responsive enough for casual navigation, and you can pair a Bluetooth remote for a more TV-like experience. If you already own a streaming stick or a soundbar with HDMI-RC, the projector's HDMI ports still give you plenty of flexibility. Just keep in mind that the app selection isn't as exhaustive as a full-featured streaming device, so power users who rely on niche services might still need a secondary box. Who should buy this? If you live in a small apartment, have a dedicated wall you can dedicate to a screen, and want a single-device solution that delivers 4K visuals with decent built-in audio, the CineBeam S is a compelling choice. It also makes sense for gamers who want a large, low-input lag display without the clutter of a separate projector screen and speaker setup. The auto-adjust feature is a blessing for folks who aren't comfortable with manual keystone correction, and